The reason this is important beyond New York is it shows you that even the democratic socialist knows if he pushes the anti-police stuff too far, he's going to get himself in big trouble. People care about safety. They do. They don't want you tinkering too much with the police. They saw what happened in 2020. The vast majority of Americans don't want that. And that's a good thing. The police commissioner in New York City, Jessica Tisch, has agreed to remain as police commissioner under Mayor-elect Mamdani. And the reason that's a big deal is because she is well-liked and well-respected by folks in the department, in the police community, unlike Mayor-elect Mamdani, who is not. The reason this is important beyond New York is it shows you that even the democratic socialist knows if he pushes the anti-police stuff too far, he's going to get himself in big trouble. Now, we will see what happens with this, by the way. We'll see if they end up getting in a fight later on, right? And if she ends up quitting. But I think it's a big deal. By the way, I think it's very good for New York that she's agreed to stay on. I had a debate with a friend of mine who was like, why would she want to stay in this administration? I said, because it's not about staying in this administration. It's about staying for New York. Here's what Mamdani has said about it. This is what he said today. Here he is on WPIX, Channel 11 in New York, talking about their differences and their desires for law enforcement. This is number 18.
She openly has said she wants more police officers. And there is this whole talk right now that there could be a mass resignation once you take office. Have you discussed the number of officers? I know you say you want to stay the same, but if you lose some and she wants to bring on more, are you open to that?
You know, I've said time and again that the amount that we had budgeted through the course of this campaign, that's the amount that we need in New York City. And frankly, the issue that we're facing is not the question of how many more officers we'll hire, but as you've said, how many officers we'll be able to keep. Because through the course of this last year, we've seen that the NYPD has a retention crisis. And it's a crisis that when you ask rank and file officers, it has less to do with the question of who the mayor is and more to do with the amount of work they're being asked to do. These are officers who signed up to do the work of policing. And yet they're often being asked to do the work of the mental health crisis or the work of the homelessness crisis. I mean, in a year alone, the NYPD will respond to 200,000 mental health calls. And so that's why, in addition to retaining Commissioner Tisch and building out an NYPD that is delivering public safety in the manner that we've seen under her, we're also going to be creating a Department of Community Safety that will be tasked with the mental health crisis, tasked with homelessness, tasked with a lot of the things that right now officers are being asked to do, because you can't separate the fact that in 2020, the police response time was less than 11 minutes. Today, it's closer to 16 minutes. A lot of this is because of everything we're asking them to do.
I mean, by the way, that is a stunningly reasonable position from Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani. Meaning, if he means it, that they really want to keep the numbers where they are, even including when they lose people, filling those positions, that's a good first step. Now, when I say keeping them where they are, they're still, I think, below the numbers where they're seeking to be. And I'm hoping that they're going to be able to continue doing that. But the fact that he's keeping Tisch shows you he gets that New Yorkers, and it's just not just in New York, it's in other liberal cities around the country, San Francisco and Seattle and Minneapolis, DC, and people care about safety. They do. They don't want you tinkering too much with the police. They saw what happened in 2020. They saw the overreaction in 2020. The vast majority of Americans don't want that. And that's a good thing. So one of the areas where they may have a difference is with regard to how to discipline officers. That's the area I think you could get into trouble between the two of them. Here is Mamdani with Dan Manarino. This is number 20 on WPIX.
The police commissioner has also said that she wants the authority to discipline officers. You've said you want to pass that off now to the Civilian Complaint Review Board. What was that conversation with the police commissioner? Is she going to have final say for disciplinary action?
So when I've been speaking to the commissioner, but also when I've been speaking to New Yorkers, I speak about outcomes. And we talked about with the NYPD, Safety and justice is what we have to deliver, but also accountability.
Yeah.
And right now, what we see is that the CCRB has to deal with questions of petty politics and budget battles. You know, in 2024, under this current mayor, the CCRB had to drop at least 700 cases due to a lack of funding. And so what I've said, whether it be to the commissioner or to the people of the city, is that I'm going to put an end to that by fully funding the CCRB so that no longer are we having to question whether we can follow through on a case because we don't have the requisite amount of money.
So who has the final say?
Under the city charter right now, that's the commissioner. The question is, can the CCRB even follow through on the complaints? I'm going to make it my job to follow through on that by fully funding the
But for the time being, she will have final say for disciplinary action until you figure out the funding issue.
Yes, that's within the city charter, and the funding issue has to do with whether the CCRB can actually take up the cases.
He's got to make sure that the police commissioner doesn't quit. And if every complaint is going through the CCRB, she's going to quit. So you hear him kind of hedging there. But again, that's a good thing. It's a good thing when I hear a Democratic socialist talking out of both sides of his mouth to try to get away from some of the more radical issues and promises that he was making. We'll see. But again, this is not just a New York issue. This is a national issue. People want to be safe. They want their police departments to be funded. They want high quality officers.